Hi, what's up, guys? Welcome back to 1908, where Ty Cobb is sitting only 250, and the Tigers are in trouble in last place. I know they're only 2.5 games behind because everybody's having a hard time. Everyone's losing to everybody else, but this doesn't look so good for Detroit. Interestingly enough, I just realized the St. Louis Browns have not had a home game yet, and the Cincinnati Reds haven't won a home game yet. Imagine that. How often do you see that happen? And we've got this the lineup set in this game ready to go underway for you. I'll push this forward just a little bit, and hope I don't knock the dice off. The first roll by Ty Cobb is a 54 for a 45. That'll be a fly ball to Hinchman in right field. One away. There's Marty McIntyre. McIntyre rolls a 16 for a 28. That's a ground ball over to Paring, the shortstop. Throws to first for the out. Two away. There's Sam Crawford. Crawford rolls a 54 for a 45, and that's going to be a fly ball over to Hinchman in right field for the out. We go to the bottom of the first. Here is Napoleon Lajoie. And Knapp rolls a 35 for a 9. That's a single against Donovan, but that little C means he's thrown out. It doesn't matter so much if it's the bottom of the first inning, right? But heaven forbid that happened to you in the bottom of the ninth inning. Here's Josh Clark. He rolls a 63 for a 31. That's going to be a fly out over to Crawford in center field, too. Where's George Stovall now? He rolls a 55 for a 7. That's going to be a base hit against Wild Bill Donovan. And here is Bill Hinchman. Hinchman rolls a 46 for a 13, and that's a strikeout for Donovan. And we'll go to the top of the second. Claude Rossman now rolls a 42 for a 9. That's a little single over shortstop, and that'll bring up Red Downs, and it's time to bunt. And, man, I should probably change these lineups. This is not the guy you want hitting fifth. His roll is a 34 for a 44, and that's going to be a little E possible rule. Yeah, the rule there is a 64, and so that ends up being a little bunt over to the right side. Stovall grabs it, flips over to Napoleon, covering at the bag. Rossman moves up to second. Here's Bill Coughlin. 2 chances for the Tigers to drive one in. Coughlin rolls a 25 for a 9, and that's going to be a single, and the runner, unfortunately, is going to be thrown out at home. Marked down one is Birmingham to Bemis, center field to catcher on the scorecard. Coughlin moves over to second base. Germany Schaefer now with 2 outs, runner on second. He rolls a 54 for a 45, and we will have the little E. And that rolls an 11, and this turns this into a 17, which is a fly ball over to right field, and Hinchman, unable to catch that one, is called for an error, and the runner scores, and it's a 1-0 Tigers just like that. Here comes Fred Payne. Fred Payne, not the starting catcher, usually rolls a 56 for a 34. There's another little E roll, and it's a 35, and it'll end up being a little pop-up over to shortstop. Paring has it for the out. We go to the bottom of the second. Bill Bradley will lead this one off here for the Naps, and he rolls a 46 for a 30, and he's the first out. Flying one over to McIntyre and left. One away is Joe Birmingham. Birmingham rolls a 15 for an 11. That'll be a single, and then he steals a base with Paring up there. George Paring now with 1 out, and a runner on second will bunt. Rolls a 53 for an 18, and that is a good bunt, and it's the catcher Payne, not a great fielding catcher, who fumbles that one. Runners now on first and third. Runner to the corners there for Harry Bemis. We're going to swing away. We're not going to do any hit and run. He rolls a 55 for an 8. That's going to be a single, which will score 1. The runner on first base is thrown out at third, and then Bemis, because the little C, tries to steal and is thrown out and ends up being the third out of the inning. So you got not a double play. You got a single, 1 run scored, 1 runner thrown out at third, and then because the little C, the batter's thrown out going over to second. How do you like that for complexity? We go to the top of the third, 1-1 ball game. Here is Wild Bill Donovan. And he rolls a 45 for a 14. He will take his base, and he's the runner on first base here. Here comes Ty Cobb. Cobb trying to get out of this slump he's been in for a little while, just not hitting so well at the beginning of the season. Cobb rolls a 34 for a 44. That's going to be a fly ball over to Birmingham in center field for the out. 1 away, and here's Matty McIntyre. He rolls a 51 for an 8, and that's going to be a ground ball over to Bradley, the third baseman. Yes, throws to first for the out. Donovan moves up to second. Here's Sam Crawford. Crawford rolls a 63 for a 31. That'll be a little fly ball over to Birmingham in center field for the out. We go to the bottom of the third. Bob Rhodes. Rhodes rolls a 41 for a 28. That's a ground ball over to Schaefer. The shortstop throws to first for the out. 1 away. There's Lajoie rolls a 63 for a 31 with a fly ball over to Crawford in center. 2 out for Josh Clark. Clark rolls a 45 for a 14 and takes his base. And here's George Stovall. Rolls a 13 for not a 14, but for a 37, changed to a 36, which is a wild pitch on Donovan. Moves Clark up to second, still with 2 outs, and now the roll is a 33 for a 0. We're going to go fishing here. Next one's a 54 for an 11, and that's going to be a single scoring the run. And George Stovall then will steal second base. 2-1 now, Cleveland, bottom of the third. Bill Hitchman up there looking for a chance to really blow this open. He rolls a 42 for a 22. And that's a bad pickoff move. No, I'm sorry, it's a stolen base by Stovall with 2 outs here. And now there's a runner on third base with 2 outs for the Naps. Next rolls a 21 for a 30. You can forget about the whole thing. It's a fly ball over to McIntyre and left. We go to the top of the 4th inning now, and here comes Claude Rossman, and he rolls a 64 for a 13. There's a strikeout, the first one of the game for Bob Rhodes. That brings up Red Downs. He'll roll a 22 for a 7, and there's a clean single to right, and that will bring up Bill Coughlin. We're going to have to bunt again, I'm afraid, and the roll is a 24 for a 13. That's just a strike. Avoided the strikeout, bunting again, and it's a 45 for a 14, and that's going to actually be a walk. And so now there are runners on first and second here for Germany Schaefer. Schaefer is just going to swing away when he rolls a 66 for a 0. Was that a good call or what? Next roll is a 31 for a 2. It's going to be a triple for Schaefer. Now, I do want to pause to say something here. So because there are runners on first and second, if this were a first column 2, there would be a home run. But because of double columns and the way this works, this is changed to a triple, right? This is something that J. Richard Seitz came up with, I think around 57, 58, sometime like that. Just so you know, that's the reason why that works. That's why it's not always a home run. If it's the second column, it ends up changing to a triple, right? So that's sort of the way that it works. They say a second column reduction. I guess it is a reduction away from the home run, but, you know, interesting how all this stuff works. Fred Payne now with a runner on third base. Germany Schaefer's fast. Infield will come in. 3-2 ball game. We are going to bunt. And he rolls a 41 for a 24, and that is a bunt. Gets Payne safe at first as there's a rundown. That ball will go from Bradley over to Bemis and then back to Paring, who makes the tag, and Payne moves up to second base. Now runner on second base for Donovan, 2 outs here, and his roll is a 45 for a 14, so he will walk. And here comes Ty Cobb, now hitting 237 with a 310 on base percentage with a chance to redeem himself. And he rolls a 66 for a 2, and that is a home run by Cobb because that is a first column 2, and you see that here in action. 5 runs in the 4th inning for the Tigers. It's 6-2. Matty McIntyre and Bob Rhodes having a problem here, and the roll here for McIntyre is a 14 for a 43. But hold on, there is a little lead. The roll, though, is a 53, and it's out of the range. It's a fly ball over to Clark in left field. He makes the catch. We go to the bottom of the 4th. Bill Bradley now comes up. The Naps are down 6-2. And his roll is a 54 for a 45. There is a little E possibility, but the roll is a 53. That's going to be a fly out over there to Cobb and right. One away is Joe Birmingham. He rolls a 14 for a 43. Little E rolls a 52. That's again going to be a fly ball, this time to McIntyre and left. 2 away is George Paring. He rolls a 21 for a 30, and that's another fly ball over to McIntyre and left. So we go to the top of the 5th. Sam Crawford up there now. Crawford rolls a 55 for a 7, and there's a single there to right field for him. That'll bring up Rossman, and do we dare do it? I think we don't dare. We're just going to go normal here and not do anything fancy. And the roll is an 11 for a 0, and here's the next roll, and it's a 55 for a 2, so that's going to be a triple for Rossman. Rhodes comes up next inning. We're going to leave him in for a little while. This is one of my rules of thumb. 7-2 Tigers, and I'm trying my hardest not to just run to the bullpen every time there's a problem. There's a little ground ball over to Bradley at third base who boots it, and the run scores. It's 8-2 Tigers now. It doesn't really matter how long Rhodes stays in there for because this is falling apart. Bill Coughlin rolls a 54 for a 45. Little E is activated, and it's a 26 is that roll. That's going to be a fly ball over to right field. Hinchman has it for the first out. 8-2 Tigers. Germany Schaefer rolls a 41 for a 28. There's a ground ball over to shortstop. That's to Paring, who makes the play, throws to first for the out. Downs moves up 2 away for Fred Payne, who rolls a 45 for a 14. So Rhodes really, really struggling here. 12 walks in the season for him. And Wild Bill Donovan finally rolls a 21 for a 13, and that's going to be a strikeout. We go to the bottom of the 5th inning, 8-2 Detroit. Here's Harry Bemis. Bemis rolls a 52 for a 27. That's going to be a ground ball over to Coughlin at third, who throws to first for the out. 1 away. That'll bring up Bob Rhodes, and we are not going to let him hit. We're not going to put Clark in. And we're going to probably go ahead with Terry Turner, I think, for the pinch hitter. We're going to give Clark the day off. Turner rolls a 63 for a 31. That's just a little fly ball over to Crawford in center field for the second out. And here's Nap Lajoie hitting only 211. And he rolls a 66 for a 0. So if I berate these guys for not hitting, then they hit. How does that work? Next roll is a 42 for a 6, and that's a double to right center field. Unfortunately, it's not even worth a single run, much less the 6 runs that Cleveland is down by. Josh Clark now rolls a 31 for a 9. That's going to be a little ground ball over to Rossman at first base, and he does it himself for the out. And it's time for us to find a relief pitcher. And who do you want? We could really have fun putting Otto Hess or Walter Clarkson or maybe Jack Graney. I think when we look at the, I'm looking mostly at the Q ratings. I think that we are going to put in Otto Hess, and let's see what happens here. So we're going to go through some of these ineffective, less effective pitchers. Guys like Hess, he's already pitched an inning. These sort of guys, honestly, probably were not on the club this long, but you never know. You have to do a lot of deep research to figure that out. Cobb rolls a 46 for a 13, and he strikes out. So he's 1 for 4 today with a strikeout, but of course with that big 3-run homer. Matty McIntyre now rolls an 11 for a 0, and his next roll is a 41 for a 6, and that'll be a double. Sam Crawford, now the hitter. Top of the 6th inning, he rolls a 21 for a 30. That's going to be a fly ball over to Clark in left field, 2 away. Here comes Claude Rossman, and he'll roll a 32 for a 26. That's a ground ball over to second base. Lejoie has it, throws to first for the out. We go to the bottom of the 6th inning. Here's George Stovall, who rolls a 51 for an 8. That'll be a single against Donovan. Bill Hinchman now is the Cleveland's try to do something, but he rolls a 36 for a 33, which is a little pop-up over to Coughlin. The third baseman has it, 1 away. Bill Bradley rolls a 32 for a 26. That's going to be a ground ball over to Downs. Flips over to Schaefer for the out of second. 2 away. Here's Birmingham. He rolls a 45 for a 14, and that's a walk. So runners on first and second now for George Perring. Rolls a 25 for a 9. That's a little ground ball over to the third baseman, Coughlin, who makes the play. Throws it to first for the out. Red Downs now top of the 7th inning. He rolls a 14 for a 43, and that's a fly ball to left field. Clark has it for the out, 1 away, and here's Coughlin. He rolls a 12 for a 24, and that's a ground ball over to the shortstop, who is that Perring, who throws to first for the out, 2 away. Germany Schaefer now rolls a 31 for a 9. It's a single for Schaefer, but he is caught stealing. We go to the bottom of the 7th inning, and here is Harry Bemis. Bemis now will roll a 35 for a 22, and that's changed to a 19. That's going to be an error on the third baseman, Coughlin, as Bemis reaches first. And that'll bring up Otto Hess, and we're not going to let him hit. We're going to probably put in... I don't know if we want to put in anyone whose name is Rabbit, huh? How about Harry Bay? Harry Bay is a pinch runner. Let's put him in to hit. Let's see what happens. It's always fun to do stuff like this, isn't it? Who cares about realism, man? 53 is the rule for a 17, changed to an 18. And that's going to be an error on Schaefer, and that will bring up runners in first and third for Lejoie. Hey, maybe he can get a hold of one. We can turn this into a ball game. No, unfortunately, Napoleon rolls a 52 for a 27. That's going to be a ground ball over to Coughlin. Goes over to Downs for 1, back over to the first baseman, Rossman, for a double play, and the runner on third holds. They don't even get a run out of that, and here comes Josh Clark. So much for clutch hitting. Clark rolls a 33 for an 8 and shows everyone how to do it. Just gets a little base hit into the outfield. It's 8-3. George Stovall now. He rolls a 56 for a 30, and you can forget about the whole thing. Fly ball over to Crawford in center field. He's got it for the out. And let's put in this guy. Jack Graney is going to be the new Cleveland pitcher. Top of the 8th inning, nobody out, 8-3 Tigers. And the rule here is a 36 for Fred Payne, and that's going to be a 33, but with a little e, and the rule is a 13. That's going to be an error on the shortstop Perring, and that puts Payne on at first base. 3 errors by both ball clubs. This has been an ugly one. Wild Bill Donovan now rolls a 45 for a 14, and there's a walk. Here comes Ty Cobb again, who's 1 for 4 today, drove in 3 runs, and he rolls a 14 for a fly ball over to Clark in left field. 1 away. Here's Matty McIntyre. Here you go. He rolls a 33 for a 7. That's a single that will score 1 and send the other runner to third base. Sam Crawford up there now. He rolls a 43 for a 29. That's a little comeback over to Graney. Throws over to first, and McIntyre goes up to second. 2 away, and here's Claude Rossman. He rolls a 12 for a 24, and that should be the inning unless something happens with this little E-roll, but it's a 66. We wasted 1. That's a little pop-up over to Bradley, the third baseman, who makes the play. Bottom of the 8th action now, and here comes Bill Hinchman. Hinchman rolls a 31 for a 14, and there's a walk given up by Donovan. Donovan giving up his third walk of the day. Bill Bradley now rolls a 34 for a 44. Fly ball over to Crawford in center field. He catches that easily for the out. Here's Joe Birmingham, 1 out. He rolls a 56 for a 34. There's a little E-roll. I'm going to do that again because that was not straight. And it's a 32 is the roll. And so that's a high pop-up over to Schaefer, the shortstop. 2 outs. George Perring now rolls a 12 for a 24, and that's a little ground ball over to Schaefer, the shortstop. He goes the easy way over to Downs at second. We go to the top of the 9th, and here is Red Downs. And Downs rolls a 34 for a 44. And oh man, it's a 14 is the little E rule, and that's going to be third baseman. It's an error on the third baseman Bradley, and that brings up Bill Coughlin. 4 errors on Cleveland in this game. Coughlin rolls a 53 for a 19. That's changed to a 21. That's going to be an error this time on the first baseman. That was a ground ball to Pairing. Throws over to Stovall, who just drops it. Runners in first and second. Now 5 errors for Cleveland. Germany Schaefer, and they're playing the last place team in the league. Schaefer rolls a 22 for an 8, and that's an infield hit, and that will load the bases. I'm sorry, that will score 1, and there are runners on first and second. I should look up before I talk. That brings up Fred Payne, who couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. And Payne rolls a 15 for a 42, and he gets hit by the pitch. Here comes Wild Bill Donovan, who's enjoying all the wild fun, and he rolls a 61 for a 13. He strikes out. 1 out for Ty Cobb. Let's see if Ty Cobb can do it. He rolls a 24 for a 31. That's a fly ball to center field. Birmingham has it, but no one can score. 2 outs for Manny McIntyre. He rolls a 32 for a 26. That's going to be a little ground ball over to the second baseman, Lajoie. Throws over to first for the out. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning, 10-3 Tigers. Detroit with 11 hits have left 10 runs on base, 5 errors for Cleveland so far. And here's Harry Bemis, who rolls a 62 for a 12. And the little E roll is going to be a 46, and that's going to be a little ground ball over to Rossman. He does it himself for the out, 1 away. We're going to let these catchers alone. We're probably going to go with either Hickman or Nil. We'll go with Charlie Hickman as the pinch hitter. Hickman, not that much better of a hitter than the pitcher, but good enough. He rolls a 64 for a 13. Strikeout number 2 by Wild Bill Donovan. And here's Lajoie, who is 2 for 4 today. Average of 225, on-base percentage of 311. Not really doing so well so far this season. But he rolls a 15 for an 8, and there's a single to left center field. Hit number 9 for Cleveland. And here's Josh Clark. Clark rolls a 12 for a 24. There is a little E, and that'll be the last gasp for the Naps. But unfortunately, this is the rules of 55. That one ends up being a little ground ball over to Schaefer, flips over to Downs for the out at second base the easy way, and we are done with this one. Tigers win this game 10-3, and boy, a lot of action in this one, including that 3-run homer by Ty Cobb, the last person in the world you'd expect to hit one. And I've told you this before, 1908's not all just about the pitching. There was some hitting this season, too. Don't you see it? Talk to you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.